The night in Southern California was thick with electricity, the kind of charge that comes only when a storm is brewing. And on this night, that storm took the shape of two heavyweights with everything on the line. The arena pulsed with noise, chants, whistles, and raw energy as fans packed shoulder to shoulder, waiting for a collision that promised bruises, drama, and a single victor forged through fire. Chris Arreola, the local hero, walked toward the ring with the weight of a city on his shoulders. California's own warrior, beloved for his relentless pressure, granite chin, and the kind of heart that makes crowds believe in miracles. His record spoke of violence and resolve. Over 20 knockouts, countless wars, and a reputation for fighting forward at all costs. Across the ring stood Bermane Stiverne, the Canadian-Haitian powerhouse whose composure and precision made him the quieter, but perhaps more dangerous, storm of the night. His jab was a spear, his right hand a guillotine, and his style deceptively relaxed, as if he carried ice in his veins. Both men stood inches from history, from the chance to carve their names into the heavyweight hierarchy. As the bell moved closer, the commentators spoke with gravity. This fight would not be a dance. This would be a test of iron wills. The air vibrated as the ring announcer's voice boomed through the speakers, and the crowd rose like a wave. When the bell finally rang, it felt less like a sound and more like the ignition of a fuse. Two men stepped forward, one pressing like a tank, the other waiting like a sniper, and the opening round promised a battle of heart versus calculation, chaos versus craft, pressure versus precision. Arreola came forward immediately, as he always did, head down, gloves up, feet pounding forward with purpose. He forced Stiverne backward, trying to smother him with pressure, attempting to turn the fight into a brawl before Stiverne could settle into his rhythm. The crowd roared with every step Arreola took, urging him on, believing his aggression would crack the calm exterior of the man in front of him. But Stiverne, composed and loose, flicked his jab like a measuring rod, watching, waiting, adjusting. Even as Arreola pressed him into corners, Stiverne's hands moved freely. Almost lazily, but every shot he threw carried danger. Sharp hooks that split the guard, counters that sliced between Arreola's advancing arms, uppercuts that reminded everyone that this calm exterior hid a destructive force. The tension thickened with every exchange, and though Arreola landed heavy blows of his own, Stiverne's cold accuracy slowly began to carve openings. Then, right before the bell of a crucial early round, Stiverne unleashed one of the most dangerous punches of the night. A perfectly timed right hand that crashed directly onto Arreola's chin. The crowd gasped as Arreola fell backwards, stunned, his body unraveling under the sudden weight of the blow. It was a violent, textbook knockdown, the kind that echoed through the building like a cannon shot. Arreola rose, battered yet unbroken, shaking his head as if to clear the fog, trying to convince the referee and himself that the fight was still his. When he returned to his corner, his team frantically worked to steady him. It was clear he had just survived a moment that could have ended everything. Stiverne, for the first time, allowed himself a brief nod. He had found his timing, he had found his target, and the fight had only just begun. As the middle rounds unfolded, the fight transformed into a war of attrition. Strategy versus stubbornness, skill versus heart. Arreola, bruised but burning with determination, surged forward again, determined to erase the memory of the knockdown. He ripped combinations to the body, trying to drown Stiverne in pressure, hoping to break his legs and drain his composure. Every time Stiverne paused for even a moment, Arreola threw flurries, desperate to turn the tide. The crowd fed off his energy, roaring with every exchange, but even through the chaos, Stiverne remained maddeningly calm. He slipped punches by inches, rolled shots off his shoulders, and responded with counters that snapped Arreola's head backward. His punches were shorter, cleaner, and felt almost effortless. yet each one carried the crack of a hammer against steel. There were moments when Arreola surged violently, catching Stiverne with hooks that forced him onto the ropes. Moments when he landed combinations that reminded everyone why he was beloved, a warrior who refused to bow, even when hurt. But Stiverne's patience was suffocating. He waited for overextensions, punished recklessness, and turned Arreola's forward march into a gauntlet of incoming fire. The commentators marveled at Stiverne's precision, noting how he threw only when it mattered, how he moved with the chill of a veteran unfazed by chaos. Yet even he was not untouched. One round saw Stiverne genuinely shaken for the first time, rocked by a sweeping blow that forced him to clinch, reset, and respect the danger in Arreola's hands. Still, with every round that passed, fatigue began to etch itself into Arreola's posture. His steps grew heavier, his guard slower, his breath harsher, and Stiverne, smelling the shift, began to sharpen his attacks, preparing for the moment when the fight would break open once again. By the championship rounds, the fight had taken on the tone of a survival epic. Arreola's face was swollen, marked by the punishment of Stiverne's laser-guided counters. His legs seemed to stiffen with each passing minute. Yet somehow, he continued to march forward, refusing to surrender the identity that had made him a fan favorite. He tried to trap Stiverne on the ropes, unloading in bursts, hoping to land one perfect punch that could change everything. But Stiverne responded like a seasoned predator, calm, selective, punishing. He began landing clean right hands that cracked like gunfire, each one visibly shaking Arreola. The referee watched more closely. Cornermen shouted warnings, and still Arreola pushed forward, driven by heart alone. Stiverne targeted the chin with ruthless accuracy, followed by tight hooks that snapped Arreola's head sideways. The damage accumulated rapidly. Arreola's legs wobbled, his reactions slowed, his body softened under the weight of every blow. A sudden counter from Stiverne nearly folded him, a punch so sharp the crowd collectively rose to their feet. Arreola staggered, trying to stay upright, and threw a desperate flurry, more heart than technique, but Stiverne smothered it and fired back with a brutal combination that sent Arreola buckling again. The tension inside the arena became painful. Every Stiverne counter felt like it carried the threat of finality. Commentary grew anxious. Doctors peered from ringside. Arreola's corner screamed instructions, knowing the margin for error had disappeared. But Arreola refused to stop, fighting with everything that remained, even as every step grew heavier, every breath harsher. Stiverne, sensing the end approaching but refusing to rush recklessly, continued to break him down shot by shot, waiting for the moment the referee could no longer watch. When the bell rang for the final round, the arena held its breath. Everyone understood what Arreola needed: a knockout. Everyone understood what Stiverne wanted: control, dominance, and a clear path to victory. Arreola came out swinging, delivering a left hook that briefly sparked the crowd, but the effort drained what little remained in his legs. Stiverne answered with a crushing series of right hands that stopped Arreola's momentum cold. Arreola stumbled, barely standing, but still tried to push forward. Stiverne landed another sharp counter, snapping Arreola's head backward, his legs faltering like a man walking through deep water. The referee watched intensely as Stiverne continued his assault, clean, accurate, powerful. Another right hand, another hook, another explosion of impact. Arreola's body language changed. His movements dulled, his feet lost balance, and every blow from Stiverne forced him further into desperation. The fight had turned from competition into survival, and with each second, the referee edged closer. Finally, as Stiverne ripped yet another brutal right hand that nearly spun Arreola sideways, the referee stepped in, waving off the fight. The crowd erupted, not in anger, but in understanding. Arreola had spent every ounce of himself and could give no more. Bermane Stiverne stood in the center of the ring, victorious, calm, and unshaken. Having weathered the storm, and delivered a masterclass in timing, precision, and poise. The judges' scores, 118 to 109, 117 to 110, only confirmed what the ring had already told the world. Stiverne was the superior boxer that night, the man who blended discipline with destruction. And though Arreola lost, he walked out with the respect of an arena that witnessed his unbreakable heart. Two warriors entered. One left triumphant, but both left unforgettable.